All right, this is going to be the final video on SE Zidane. It's going to be we're going to first cover the match between Kaus and Cookie, the final decisive game of the match. And then we're going to go through how different players' Hall of Fame scores were affected by the results of Zidane. This is the first time a tournament has gone the entirety of its whole tournament with me having created this stat. And so I'm curious to see how much people can move around depending on where they land and if that seems reasonable, if it seems like player X had a good tournament, they moved up a couple spots. Sure, you know, player Y had a good tournament, they dropped 20 spots. That seems weird, right? So getting to check, make sure everything's working properly. But first, let's look at the final game between Kaus and Cookie. Kaus is the red cards first turn, Cookie is the blue cards. You have to use clearly 3 level 8s and 2 level 4s. I guess those are 4s. And Kaus started at 5, chucked a weaker card into 5. Note he has multiple cards that have at least 3 directions of capture on it. And Cookie played a strong corner in 7. And I think this is the first move I really want to talk much about. This is a very logical move. Now I should say, we never saw Cookie's 5th card. So there is a card here that Kaus thinks was Cookie's 5th card, and we have some evidence for it, but we don't know for sure. This is a card Cookie used in another game, and it fits something Cookie said after the game in a conversation with Kaus. Um, that's the 3939. We don't know for sure that that was his card, but I think it is very likely based on what Kaus has said and based on how the game played out, and based on him having chosen it in a previous game. Now, that said, I think starting here in 7 makes sense, and I forgot to say the rule set of this game. It is same plus combo, no plus wall, and that means 9s facing out are very powerful. And Cookie has chosen a corner to start with where potential recaptures, either 3-9, 3-9, and 8, or 9-5, 6-5, and 4, each have a 9 facing out, taking advantage of the fact that that's virtually safe on this rule set, right? So he really is starting in a corner where he can build out safety. If he did something like this, sure, he has recaptures and he has a nice move for 2, but he does not have a nice move for 4. So I think this makes a lot of sense. It is not a combo setting up move. It is not aiming for combo play. It is aiming to take advantage of there being no plus wall. I should note, same plus combo is probably the fairest of closed rule sets for tournaments because it is the one that has the least kind of first, second turn advantage. Uh, on the other hand, it is the only time Kaus got first turn in the match because they already played a finals match and this is the grand finals. And that he got it on a rule set that doesn't actually favor first turn is kind of rough. Now, Kaus goes in 3, and again, I think this is really logical. You want to keep your high end cards for later, especially the fewer rules there are, the less, like, sure, 4-3-6-3 has a plus here, but it's dead here, and it's likely to be dead in lots of squares. You want it out of your hand. If you go in 2 or 6, which are the other standard squares, then one of your 8-5-8-5 or 5-9-5-7 are probably not going to play super well, right? You have one up down card and one side to side card, and once you make a move like this, you kind of lock the game into being up down or side to side. And also, 4-4-8-9 might not find great homes there. Though it might, it's a very good recapturer in 3 and 9 here. But I think given how Kaus's hand is built, 3 is very logical, and 4-4-8-9 is now a house in 2, in 6. It has a capture in 8, it has a double capture in 4. That is just a really powerful card here. So now we move back to Cookie's point of view. And he wants to start grabbing safety, building out with his 9s. And so he has a choice. Does he go in 8 or does he go in 4? And I think this was a really well played game. I think, you look at this card and you think it has 8, it also has 2. This card has 4, but it's not that valuable in 6. So I'd rather get this card out of my hand. And I think Cookie very smartly goes in 4 here. Now, if you're Kaus, you don't have the capture in 1. So you're kind of torn between 6 and 8, right? And if you go 6, you might have some play. 4-4-8-9 might sweep the bottom, 5-9-5-7 might sweep the top. But on the other hand, they might not. And like as the game probably might have, I mean, there's a good chance it could have played out something like this. And your cards are just not that powerful sweepers. I think the Z in SPC, unless your Z has really set up your other cards to make sure you have captures, is not a very good structure to aim for. And I think Kaus going for the Q made a lot more sense. It's really rough for him that the 5725 has exactly a 7 facing out. Um, if it had a 9 facing out, then 8585 could have the plus. I guess an 8 would be equally bad, but he'd love to be able to play this card here, right? It's just one number too big to be able to get rid of the card he'd want to use, because as we established, 4489 has a lot of play in a bunch of squares. So Kaus has to use the card that's most valuable to him, but I think this is just the right move. And Cookie plays 8558 and 9. Now, if Kaus can combo this, Cookie is not dead, because Cookie is 2627 ready to same in 2, so as long as that combo flips 5, Cookie's in good shape. So, there's always like a risk when you're capturing and susceptible to combos. He put out an 8, that's 1 away from the 7. This is not, this is a card that's commonly going to be comboed. But Cookie has some good play if it is comboed. So I think this is a good capture. It creates a challenge, and there is a combo play if it turns out this is not safe. Also, Cookie doesn't really want to play in 1 because his 9 is likely safe already, and he doesn't have good slides in 2 or 6. So I think you go 9 here. I think this is an excellently played game of closed by both players. Now, if we think about the decisive game in the finals, something really interesting happened, which is Kaus forced Cookie to take a 9, and then when Cookie could, he still had a combo. He still could capture enough stuff that Cookie had to take both a 9 and a 6 on his last turn. So on Cookie's last 2 turns, he had to be able to combo a 9 and then capture a 9 and a 6. He had to have both those things in his last 2 cards to work. That was really hard to have. I think Kaus played a really good game in the finals, and it just happened to lose, right? Sometimes they don't have the capture on that first 9. Cookie had the combo on it, right? If he doesn't have the combo, Kaus is fine. Even if he does have the combo, he then needs another card with power in similar directions. Really hard to have. Cookie had it. Again here, I think Kaus is hitting a real directional annoyance. Because if that had had a 9 up, Kaus has the combo with 5957 if he wants it. If that has a 7 up, Kaus can take it. This is the exact number, a little like the 5725, though an 8 would have worked equally well there too. The exact number that is really difficult for Kaus's hand to take. Sometimes this means your hand is poorly built, but sometimes it just means the numbers didn't line up your way and you don't have something to do. But we have a really interesting choice to make for Kaus now. Now, it's pretty hard to go in 6, right? You go in 6, you're hoping they can't take, or they have to take with a 5 facing out. But also, if you've put them on the 3939, you're dead to that as well. You're dead to a move like this, but you're dead to the card you think is in their hand. If you do 5957, that's an even worse version of the same thing. So you go 6 here, you're just going to lose. You don't have 6, and you can't go there. There is always some instinct like remove the square you're dead in, but Cookie doesn't know quite how dead you are in that square, that you don't even have captures towards 5 from there, right? He can't know that. So he might think you don't have the flip on 9, but it's pretty scary to leave this open, because if you have the flip on either, and if you have a combo on either, it's game over. It's harder to have a combo against a 2. Now, you could go 1, and if you go 1, the problem here is if they take the safer square and flip 3, now these cards don't flip 3, but he doesn't know that, you don't flip 3 back, right? So you probably lose there. And if you do this way, again, okay, you do have the double capture in 2, but you don't have anything in 6, you probably lose. So I think given this, Kaus made an excellent practical decision. He played 8585 in 2. Specifically saying, if you can go 1 and capture, I am going to lose, but you can't know that, because if I could combo back in 9, I win. I've just set up a win. This is the kind of move that looks a lot like it's setting up a win either way, right? If he has a combo in 6, This says, well, I might have a combo in one, right? If you have a combo, maybe it's not looking like it sets up a win, though it easily could set up a win, but it's making Cookie make a 50-50 call. And I think given Kaus's previous situation, 50% that you win, because if Cookie does anything here, you combo back through 4, which combos back enough that you're guaranteed to win whether or not they flip 3. Um, and if they go in 1, you lose because you have no captures. But 1 is scary because if you can combo back, you win if you can combo through 9. And 6 is scary if there's a combo in 1. It's scary either way. And Cookie has to make a 50-50 call. And Cookie said if he had had a card that could have taken 3, he would have played in 6. And Kaus would have won. And this is why we really think Cookie had a 3-9-3-9 as his last card, because we know it wasn't something that could take 4-6-3-6. And 3-9-3-9 was a card he used previously, and a card that made a ton of sense with how he played this game. And so Cookie would have very reasonably gone in 3, flipping 1 and 5, and Kaus Debonair would have won SE Zidane. Instead, Cookie played in 1 because he did not have 3. He thought, good chance he's getting comboed to death either way. And Kaus doesn't have it, and Cookie wins Zidane with an incredible 9-1 run over the tournament. But I think this final game is just perfectly played by both players, right? I think every difficult situation either landed in was because the other created problems for them, or because they happened to get unlucky with how their numbers aligned, not because they had made bad moves previously. I think this is a really well played game of closed, really well adapted to the rules of SPC, especially how Cookie played it with his move in 7, setting up moves in 4 and 8. But I also think even after Cookie was really smart there, Kaus would have a really good position here if he had any play at all in 6. He is very unlucky not to have any play in 6, and he still finds a move that would have won this game if Cookie's hand wasn't completely out of up power. And so I think they both played really well, and um, yeah, I don't think either of them can feel bad about how they played this game or this finals. So that's coverage of the final game of Zidane, and now we're gonna switch over to how this changes my all-time rankings of players. So now we're looking at the Hall of Fame ratings changes. This is the first time we've done a tournament since I made my Hall of Fame ratings, and I'm excited to see how they move. Um, so I built this Hall of Fame stuff. This is our first tournament after they've been constructed. I don't really know how they're going to change with the new inputs. I'm probably not going to do a video like this every tournament, though I'm curious to see what will happen after the first non-closed one. But I also don't think I provided enough coverage of Zidane in general, so I am excited to do this here. Because we had, I got one game of the grand finals, one game of the finals, one game of the losers finals, and I think nothing before that, which is a shame. I would have liked to have caught more games, but people don't message me when they play, and sometimes often I'm not online. But also, people should message me, then I could record a lot more. Um, that said, I started building this as the tournament was happening and putting in players as they were KO'd. This is not meant to rub salt in the wounds of people that went out early. I'm mostly going to be focusing on people in my top 50 or in my top 100. So this is generally going to be, congratulating the usual suspects. Yeah. So let's get to it. Some players went out in the first 2 rounds. Turds came in at 19th all time, and he lost his first 2 games and fell a full point in the standings. This is tentatively still 19th all time, but there are 2 players quite close behind. Chickeny was a bit higher at 67.28 points, good for, I think, 15th all time, and he fell a full point about as well. So basically, going 0-2 costs you a full point here, give or take. It affected Chickeny a little more than Turds, but Turds has played more, so each individual tournament is going to move his remaining ranking less. So I'm very happy with its input here, and these are 2, top 20 players that still have tremendous scores. Metis only lost once. He forfeited the second round, but he dropped a few points and fell from 32nd to 33rd. That's fine. There's a big cluster of close players. You're gonna, small differences in score when players are packed, will drop you a few spots. Yeah, so those are the players that went out in 2 rounds. In 3 rounds, we have Piggyman. He went 1-2. He beat Kaus beat him in this tournament, which is funny because Piggyman after TTAC had just passed Kaus, but Kaus now will pass him back. Piggyman stays, however, in the top 20. Or no, he falls to 21st, which is still a tremendous ranking. And Piggy did reach the 40 tournament matches one club. He's one of 2 players to reach it. I'll say how many there have been later. I think it's around 15 ever. No, it's around 25 ever. But it's a pretty low number, and it's a really nice feat for someone who hasn't actually played that many tournaments. Acela dropped slightly. It temporarily drops him out of the top 50. He will be back. I have a lot of faith in Acela's tournament play. And that actually, that is a game I caught. I caught the Vialva Acela match, and I thought Acela played phenomenally in that game. I think, sort of like the game we looked at with Kaus and Cookie, I think Cookie played great, and I think Acela played great. And I think Vialva very cleverly set a trap and made a difficult decision for Acela, despite that Acela had played so well. And Acela happened to make the wrong choice, though I think he made a good choice, and Vialva got the win. Similarly, Kaus set a trap. He set a way for Cookie to go wrong, and it turned out Cookie didn't have the cards to let him go wrong. But he would have similarly gone wrong too, and Kaus would have won there. So you can obviously play fantastic and lose, and that's what I think Acela did. Delial also went down here. He drops from 85.79 to 85.05, which makes no difference in his standings at all because the top 4 are so far ahead of everyone else that he could lose his next 15 games and he would still be 4th all time, by this ranking, and you might have him higher than that even with that. Yeah, so it makes no difference there. Yeah, so cost for losing in the 4th round tends to be a half a point. In the 3rd round, the reason Delhi loses a little more than other players lost is because Delhi's average result is so extremely high that other stuff hits him harder. So what does this show so far? Anyone within a point or so on the rankings is pretty interchangeable. It's kind of like one good or one bad tournament away from passing each other. This is part of the reason to be skeptical of short-term players. If someone plays 2 tournaments in quarterfinals both, or like even further, their averages are really high, but we also can see when looking at players that, like, you look at good players, they all have some bad tournaments. You throw one bad tournament in there, and their average performance would plummet. And it just happened not to happen, or maybe they are that good. It's so hard to tell. I think fundamentally, if one weird result could change your standings a lot, we should not be confident of your place in the standings. And with these players we're seeing, the max change we're seeing is like half a point or a point, which suggests we should be pretty confident that they're really that good, and they are. So far I feel good about this system, and also we'll now see that players that went 2-2 tended to gain in score rather than lose, which I feel great about because I think, if your peak is a 50% player, you're a very good tournament player. It's actually very hard to maintain 50%. And if you do that long enough, you're definitely a top 100 player, but you're not going to be, top 30, right? However, if you are top 30-ish and keep playing longer and maintaining 50%, I don't think that should hurt your case that you kept playing still at a high level, just not as high a level as you were. So if you go 50%, and for lower ranked people, this will help their score, but for high ranked people, this still mostly shouldn't hurt their score. And I feel happy that that's what happened here. Yevon's just out of my top 50. He went 2-2. He went up 0.2 points. Vialva also went 2-2 and similarly went slightly up. Neither of these players are currently in my top 50, but I would not be surprised if both are in fairly short order. On the other hand, it's easy to have bad tournaments. They could not be. 5 KO'd. We're into players that had winning records, players who went 3-2. Slash fell a quarter point for going 3-2. He's still top 10 all time, partially because his average is so high, going 3-2 could hurt him, but this also was because of specific weirdness within the rankings where he did something that would have helped almost anyone else, but happened not to help his score. We can chalk this up to weirdness. Slash did well. It's, fine. You could say this is the system doing badly, but it's only, I think, a little off here where it should be. Akiyama also went 3-2, and it also cost him a tiny amount, again, because his average is so high. He stays 12th all time. And similarly, Smokes went for an icon and moved up fractional margins. Most players lower down gained a little from going 3-2 for obvious reasons, but these players have, very high win rates, and going 3-2 ended up not helping them. But he also moves closer to catching Koner for third most icons all time, which I think will matter a little more to him. Because he's quite close. Then we have 6 KO'd. We have Vidiot. Turns out that, a player who won a closed championship before is really good at closed. He went 4-2 for a 5th and 6th place finish. Vid already had the record for most champions beaten in closed, but extends that lead here. Gains slight margin, but partially that's because his average closed performance is already so high. And I think he has a really good case now for best closed tournament player ever. He's 1-1. This is another icon to add to it. I think he might have already had a second icon in closed. I think he's now the leader in closed icons. Very good case for best closed tournament player ever. Zoom makes his second closed finals. That's not quite right. This is a semifinals finish. He made losers finals, which counts as semifinals. So he's not quite the first player to ever achieve that, but a finals and a semifinals is right up there as one of the best closed runs ever. He's another person that has a very good case for being the best closed tournament player ever. Delial's also in that conversation. Cookie is now in that conversation. Raistlin won a tournament. He's got to be in there. And the Crow, Torim, is in there. But of not people who haven't won a tournament yet, I think Zoom is the clear player with the best case. And he probably has a better case than at least some of those tournament winners. He's a great closed player. That's obvious if you play him. And his tournament results bear that out. He entered at 45.9, just out of the top 100. Mostly I'm not talking about non-top 100 players, but he deservedly gained a point and a half for this great performance and moved into 87th. And you could argue, given his closed dominance, he's underrated there, that my stats focus on open means he's not quite getting the credit he deserves, despite being a perfectly reasonable open player. Then we move into one of the best runs in losers, if it will go to the next slide. We have Tezuka, who lost round 1, but did the closest thing to Ray Aminator's run in the first closed tournament, where he lost in round 1, and he made it all the way to finals, to grand finals, actually. Tezuka didn't make it quite that far, but he did earn his millionth icon in a row, 6th icon, actually, which ties him with Delial for most icons ever in a row, passing the Polish brothers, who each are next up on that list with 5 icons in a row. He also goes from 62.2 to 63.1, which puts him ahead of D and just fractions behind Piggy Man in 22nd. So Tezuka has seen serious jumps in his score. Coming in, I had him around 35th or 36th. And now, with an absurd icon streak, a tournament won, he's very, very close to top 20 all time. Tezuka has had a phenomenal return. And then we have our finalist, Kaus Debonair. I am genuinely sad he lost. This one hit me a little. I guess they all do. I always have a rooting interest somewhere. He went 5-2, much like Tezuka did, but in winner's bracket, and he's also the only person to defeat Cookie the whole way. I said the eventual champion here because I wasn't sure when recording this video how I would order it, so if I would reveal who had won yet. But we do know Cookie has won, and yeah. Kaus was the only one to beat Cookie. He knocked Cookie into loser's bracket, and then Cookie came back and beat him twice in finals and grand finals. But this was a great run from Kaus. This is his 3rd finals. His first finals was 20 years ago in 2003. That Kaus, signed up for just one tournament to goof around because Deli said, you better sign up, and then made it to the finals and came so close to winning. He could have very easily won this grand finals game. In the finals, he had second turn twice. Obviously, we don't know what would have happened if he had been on first turn. And I think he played well on second turn. This could have very easily gone differently. I think he played great. He says he played like crap and deserved none of it, but from the games I saw, I have no complaints about his performance. He entered the tournament ranked 21st on my all time list, a spot that Tezuka is now in, I think. He moved up to 63, or Tezuka's 22nd, maybe. Kaus is now back up to 20th. Piggy's down to 21st. They're all very close. He gets a boost of 0.75, which I would have thought he should get at least a point here. But, my scoring system does some weird things, and he had a great run, and it's his third finals. And yeah, congrats to Kaus. He did great. Weirdnesses of my system notwithstanding, I think in general it's getting it basically right, but little weirdnesses tournament to tournament. Obviously, people with high averages are affected somewhat less by great results because their numbers are already so good. Anyhow, great tournament for Kaus, and big congratulations on being a finalist here. And our winner, Cookie, the player everyone spent tons of time chatting with in game to let him know that opponents were ready to play them. This feels like a whole sort of communal victory or loss, depending how you look at it. Of like, there were so many people who helped try to get these games done because Cookie is not in the Discord and thus was very difficult to find at times for things. He was the second player to ever win two tournaments. In 2006, he wins his second tournament. I believe he's second. It's possible he did it before Doc. I didn't actually check. But I think Doc gets his in 2005, early '06, and then Cookie right after. But I could be wrong in the order. Cookie could have been the first to ever get two. He wins Yuffie in 2004, and he wins TTAC 4 in 2006. And I think that does come after Doc's run. So I think he's the second to ever win two tournaments, and now going 9-1 over the course of this tournament, which is the highest win percentage from someone who. This is the highest win percentage anyone's put up in a double elimination format. Vid went 6-1, Kaus went 5-2, Reye went 11-2, Cookie goes 9-1 here. No one's won one of these double elimination tournaments without losing a game, and Cookie goes through with the most wins, coming back from loser's bracket to do it. He becomes the seventh player to ever win three tournaments. Who are the other three-time winners? We have, I believe, Delial, Seto, myself, Great Sephiroth were the first four. Then Yojimbo was the fifth, and then Slash of Time was the sixth, and Cookie the seventh. He's also now the only player other than Delial to play at least three finals and win all of them. Broccoli won the two finals she played in. Koner won the two finals he played in. Though they've both lost some title matches. Cookie probably lost a title match to Kamikaze somewhere. So Delial is probably the only player who is unbeaten in all finals and all title matches. But Cookie is the closest we have to that now. Also, Delial's played like 7 of these or more, and Cookie has played 3. But, you don't want to compare people to Delial. That's always going to lead to not being as excited about them as we should be. Cookie has now the second best finals record behind Delial. And that's just remarkable. He enters at 65.89 for 17th all time, and with this huge result going 9-1, he jumps to 68.57. Winning tournaments really does up your score, and jumps him from 17th to 14th, which might not seem all that much, but it gets really hard to move past people at that point. He moves past Sujiro, he moves past Chickeny, he moves past... Ooh, who's the other person in that crowd? I'm not sure. Maybe Karmazin? Probably Karmazin. And yeah, Cookie's starting to get close to being, top 10 all time after having not made a few runs, but not made that many runs in the last 15 years. He comes back to 9-1 this tournament. This is also 19 years after his first title. This is obviously the biggest time span of someone winning tournaments of anyone ever. It's incredible. Congratulations to Cookie. A few more random stats as we wrap this up. Will you go to the next slide? There we go. So Cookie's the 7th to win 3 tournaments. He moves up to 6th all time in total tournament wins. He enters the top 10 in career achievement. He reaches 11th in win rate in the icon rounds. His win rate in early rounds is not that great. He's played a long time now and kind of been a 50%er in tournaments, but when he makes the icon rounds, he does very well after that. Kaus catches Great Sephiroth for total tournament wins, and he becomes one of only 19 players to ever make 3 finals. Zoom adds a semifinals to his prior finals in a closed tournament. As I said, one of the best closed resumes around. Tezuka and Piggyman each reach 40 wins. Piggyman gets their first, but they both hit there. And Tezuka also becomes the 15th player to ever get 10 individual icons in tournaments. And as a most important note to leave you with, Smokes does not grab any activity wins at all in this tournament and does not increase his lead in the single most important stat.